This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch for Tuesday, March 5th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, sorting through the devastation and searching for victims as dozens remain missing in the aftermath of that deadly tornado in Alabama. And congressional Democrats launch a sweeping new probe of President Donald Trump, one that could shadow him through next year's election. Plus, raising taxes. Democratic presidential candidates are promising new taxes for high earners. But will they pay for their new spending programs? And she lost an arm but now has an artificial hand. And what's more, it acts like a real hand. She can actually feel with it. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin with another day of searching for victims of the deadly EF4 tornado that struck East Alabama, killing 23 people, including 3 children. The twister reached up to 175 miles an hour, wind spinning the path of destruction a mile wide, making it the deadliest tornadoes in the United States in almost 6 years. Survivors gathered in Beauregard High School's gym to mourn the loss of family and neighbors and to pray together, still in shock from all they experienced since Sunday.
It's really terrible seeing the destruction that it's caused and seeing the lives that it's scarred and the people it's hurt. And there's really not words to describe the kind of carnage it's wreaked.
The Lee County coroner says all but six of the people in the storm have been identified. Residents say they are also looking for people still missing since that deadly storm. The president is vowing to sign a measure to guarantee free speech on college campuses, regardless of political leanings. The announcement reportedly coming in response to a conservative activist being silenced on campuses across the country.
Today, I'm proud to announce that I will be very soon signing an executive order requiring colleges and universities to support free speech if they want federal research dollars.
The White House has not released any details on when the executive order could be signed. House Democrats have launched a sweeping investigation into the president that could take them down the road to impeachment. It could also dog the president way through the 2020 election cycle, possibly affecting not only him, but other Republican candidates as well. Our Heather Sells is on this story.
The House Judiciary Committee Monday launched a widespread probe looking into a possible obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power. The president calls it ridiculous.
Mr. President, are you going to cooperate with Mr. Nadler?
I cooperate all the time with everybody. And you know the beautiful thing? No collusion. It's all a hoax.
House Judiciary Chair Jerry Nadler is orchestrating the investigation. The Judiciary Committee sent letters to more than 80 people, including executives in President Trump's real estate companies, administration officials, and members of his inaugural committee. Even family members, including sons Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and Jared Kushner, were targeted. The committee also is asking the FBI and Justice Departments for documents on possible pardons for Michael Cohen. The Wall Street Journal reports today one of Cohen's attorneys approached Trump's lawyers about a pardon but was turned down. It also wants documents on hush money payments Cohen arranged during the campaign to 2 women who alleged sexual encounters with Trump. Nadler says the requests, due in 2 weeks, are a way to begin building the public record.
Our job is to protect the rule of law in this country. Remember, we are talking about a situation where for 2 years the Republican Congress did no oversight on the administration.
Another probe will examine private conversations between the president and Russian President Vladimir Putin. It's all part of a Democratic strategy to flood the White House with requests and keep the president on trial publicly right up until 2020.
I hope we get something done besides investigations aimed at impacting the next election.
The president's press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is calling the probes a fishing expedition. The president says Democrats are terrified that their Russian collusion charge is crumbling.
They don't have anything with Russia. There's no collusion. So now they go and morph into, let's inspect every deal he's ever done.
Although the special counsel's Russia investigation is winding down, these new probes signal a Democrat strategy of distracting the White House and its resources through the election season. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Hillary Clinton is not running for president next year. The 2016 Democratic presidential nominee ruled out another run in an interview with New York TV station News 12. But she also says she is not going anywhere and she's going to keep speaking and standing up for what she believes. Many of the Democrats who are running for president are proposing big new spending programs, and one way to pay for them is raising taxes on high earners. But will those taxes actually pay for their spending plans? Senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon is taking a look.
For every dollar some Americans make, there is a growing number of Democrats here in Washington who want to cut 50, 70, even 90% to help fund new government programs. From Senator Elizabeth Warren's ultra-millionaire tax and Julian Castro citing 90% tax rates to the new Democrat darling's proposal of 70% rates for the very top earners, ensuring the government gets a greater cut from America's wealthiest is becoming as stylish among Democrats as those pink Women's March hats. The goal is to fund new programs like Medicare for All, free college tuition, and close the gap between America's rich and poor, what Democrats call income inequality. While the party's progressive left supports these plans, others say they wouldn't work. Possible independent presidential candidate Howard Schultz calls Warren's plan ridiculous. Even the Washington Post editorial board criticized it. And economist Stephen Moore tells CBN News there's a major problem with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's high income taxes.
So, when Alexandria Cortez talks about, the good old days when we were 70, 80, 90% tax rate, guess what? Congresswoman, nobody paid those taxes. Nobody paid 70, 80, 90% tax rates. I mean, because rich people would hire tax accountants, would find ways for them to avoid paying taxes at all.
In 2018, the first year of the Trump tax cuts, the government took in more tax money than ever before. One reason? Many of those loopholes many wealthy taxpayers used to pay less closed. Moore fears rising tax rates would kill American competitiveness because the same companies creating jobs and setting employment records would once again send their business to China. Plus, Moore thinks taking more than half of what a citizen makes is not only bad for the economy, it's contrary to the American dream.
I really believe tax rates that when they reach 50, 60, 70, 80%, that's immoral. If you make twice as much money as I do, you should probably pay twice as much income tax, but not 5 times more or 10 times more.
If some of these tax plans were enacted, President Trump says America would look more like Venezuela.
That was the richest state in all of that area. That's a big, beautiful area, and by far the richest. And now it's one of the poorest places in the world. That's what socialism gets you, when they want to raise your taxes to 70%.
A race to the highest tax rates wasn't always popular among Democrats. Remember, it was a Democrat Congress that helped President Reagan pass his tax cuts. And before Reagan, another president cut taxes, a Democrat.
The most famous Democrat who argued for lower tax rates was of course, John F. Kennedy. One of our most revered presidents who, when he came into office, we had 90% tax rates, and he slashed those tax rates because he said, guess what? This is going to help our economy if we get tax rates lower.
One thing we can count on is the addition of more and more creative tax plans as we inch closer to the presidential election in 2020. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
The Nigerian man arrested on a street in London for simply preaching the gospel has spoken out following his release. Oluwalasanmi said in a video produced by the UK anti-persecution watchdog group Christian Concern that police came on the scene and yanked me away. He says God was very faithful to him to help him once he was released by a police in an unfamiliar neighborhood. He said, quote, God raised for me people in the streets that could be of assistance. He said he has since been preaching God's word and appreciates the support he's received from around the world. Coming up, we have an amazing story how a woman who lost an arm now has an artificial hand. But what's amazing is she can actually feel with it everything from temperatures to the touch of her husband's hand. We've got several stories trending at cbnnews.com, including these headlines. I've seen Jesus is the story of a man who died, made 3 trips to heaven, and the people he saw there will astound you. And actor Luke Perry dies at age 52 after suffering a stroke. Plus, Muslim congresswoman facing new anti-Semitism charges.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
New hope for those who lose limbs in combat and elsewhere. An Ohio doctor performed groundbreaking surgery that caused his patient to become the most advanced amputee in the world. Dr. A.J. Seth had to amputate his patient's arm. In its place, she now has an artificial one that, believe it or not, allows this patient to feel. She feels hot or cold, can grasp a styrofoam cup, and can even feel her husband's touch when he's holding her hand. Dr. Seth recently told CBN's Lori Johnson, all the glory belongs to God.
When you're in medical school, you are so busy learning, your biochemistry and the names of these drugs and the bacteria. There's really no thought of faith-based. And then you go into private practice where you start to really learn how to become a doctor. But there are so many instances where a physician just gives you statistics on research. You hear people say, well, they have this type of cancer. The doctor said they had 3 months to live. And 3 years later, that person is still here. In science, we always want to give justification on how it happened. And I'll give you an example in her case where she was losing blood nonstop. And I remember looking everywhere because we wanted to know where it was coming from. We looked at the brain, the abdomen, the lungs, everywhere. Never found where it was coming from. But everybody kept saying, oh, she's hemolyzing, which is the fancy name of the red blood cells breaking down. Well, you should see it in the urine. That's how you know. She didn't have it in the urine. But in science, we don't want to say maybe things are happening we can't explain. And that's what I learned on this journey, that when I was going through it, though, your mind is so set on helping your patient that that's all you think of. And everybody's like, oh, like, God, help me figure this out. And then one day I sat back and started looking at everything that happened. And that's where you start to see that the faith and science came together in this case. Science, I moved nerves, I did this, I had a phenomenal team. I mean, it was like this team was put together for this. But I always say there's no way I'm this phenomenal surgeon who could accomplish putting nerves together and get her feel. It's almost like we got her to a certain point, and then the faith-based portion took over, who had been leading us, and now is like, I will finish this journey for you. So looking back on it, it is something that you can really, when you read the book, start to see that if you're in a waiting room and the doctor comes out and says, you know, your loved one's going to the ICU, you don't know what's in store. But the book kind of shows you that there's a higher power that does stuff that we in medicine or we on earth can't explain.
How many other physicians have this connection with God and do have a strong faith? Because I think the general perception is not many.
That's a great question. You know, it's almost a fine line that we as physicians look at to the fact of when do you bring the faith in or not. Prime example, do you pray with your patient before you go to surgery? And it's one of those things where as a physician, people don't want to upset somebody or do this. So you never really see when you're sitting around in a consultation that someone says, hey, you know, let God take over, because you're ingrained that, you know, we will use science to solve this. But hopefully little by little, as we are getting more of the younger generation, we'll kind of break through that.
Now, this entire story is documented in the new book, Rewired. You can watch Lori's entire interview with Dr. Seth. That is tonight on Healthy Living. It begins at 9:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, we've heard about concussions among NFL players and the damage they can cause. Well, we have a look at how the league is working to protect players from injuries while still allowing them to actually play the game.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
The NFL 2019 Combine wrapped up Monday. The Combine is where college football players get to show their abilities to NFL coaches and leaders. Concussions, and helmet safety were a big topic this year. As CBN Sports reporter Sean Brown found out, the league is taking it seriously and working to keep the players safe without compromising their playing the game.
NFL football. What fan doesn't love the amazing catches, runs, interceptions, and let's not forget about the hard hits. But with player injuries on the rise, the NFL has made a lot of adjustments to the game we love. Since 2002, the NFL has made roughly 50 rules changes in an effort to make the game safer.
With all the changes that the National Football League has made to make the game safer for players, some say that the game is becoming soft. But is it? Or is it that the league is making strides to secure the longevity of America's game? which starts with player protection.
Jennifer Langton is the NFL's Vice President of Health and Safety. I spoke with her about the league's Play Smart, Play Safe initiative launched by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell to advance progress in the diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of sports-related injuries.
I focus on our engineering efforts as well as our innovation, all to make and advance health and safety for our players on the field. We work very closely with the NFLPA and the NFL and our lead engineers.
In the last 3 seasons, head injuries, specifically concussions, have been a top concern for the NFL, and rightfully so. In 2017, the total amount of concussions from preseason to postseason were a staggering 291.
When you get that information and you see that there's an incline in concussions, how do you respond to that when you're making such strides?
We did have, from the previous year, a 16% increase in concussions. We've studied every single concussion on our field for the past 3 years. That provides us the insight so that we know the speeds, the velocities, the impact sources, so we can give that to the marketplace so they can design for better helmets.
It is through that lens of data that manufacturers design and construct new and improved football helmets, which are then sent for extensive research under the direction of the NFL's chief engineer and University of Virginia professor, Dr. Jeff Crandall.
I study what's called biomechanics, which is how the body responds to forces. We do a lot of work trying to study when a concussion occurs, what are the forces, what are the motions involved, and then we bring that into a laboratory setting like you'd see here in our laboratory, where we use an impactor, which reproduces a player coming in and striking another player that would be wearing a helmet. Instead of a player, we use a crash test dummy, which is instrumented with sensors. Those sensors measure the accelerations and motions of the head from an impact. And by changing out the helmets, evaluating the helmets, we can see which ones are best able to mitigate the forces or manage the forces. So that's a measure of safety.
But that's just one way the impacts are measured. The other is virtual.
Through the computer, we can actually simulate the impact. So rather than running a physical test, you run a computer simulation where you can make hundreds or thousands of virtual prototypes, test them in a very efficient way, and really get to much better designs quicker, cheaper, and more effectively.
Most NFL fans watch games and just assume that the players are all wearing the same style helmet. Well, they're not. According to Dr. Jeff Crandall, chair of the NFL Engineer Committee, all helmets aren't created equal.
After we test the helmets, both physically and virtually, one of the things we want to do is we want to generate information for players to make informed decisions. So in conjunction with the Players Association, every year we go through, we run physical tests on any new helmets that come out, and then we rank them and put them on a poster that hangs in every locker room. So if this helmet is performing well or not well, under what conditions is it performing well or not well, which can hopefully lead them to improvements to make safer helmets.
It is the player's choice to select which helmet they wear. To date, no helmet exists that can prevent a concussion entirely. That's why Jennifer says that educating the players on better performing equipment and safer ways to play the game is at the forefront of this initiative.
When we go back to our mission, it's to advance the health and safety of our players. And we're lucky enough working with the NFLPA that we have the best of experts that we attract to do the research, and they are independent, but the education needs to move forward, which I think that we've done a tremendous job this year. And we see that because we see 72% of players now adopting top performing helmets. That was just over 40% last year. So the education is working, but it's data driven. So yes, concussion is an issue, but let's try to understand it, but let's try to improve it. And that is understanding the mechanism of injury so that we can make the game safer for the players and still build that excitement around it.
Coming up, how CBN's Operation Blessing is helping pregnant women in Honduras. They're in need. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Come home to the Southern Gospel Station from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern Gospel favorites. CBN Southern Gospel. Available now at cbnradio.com.
CBN's Operation Blessing has provided assistance to pregnant women in Honduras. A health center called Maya Corte was in desperate need of supplies to help care for women and children. Operation Blessing stepped in to provide supplies, including bed sheets, baby towels, baby clothes, and patient garments. Thanks to Operation Blessing's efforts, the women have received necessary attention and care for their pregnancy and delivery in a safe and comfortable place. Now, you can find out more about Operation Blessing by visiting its website. That is ob.org. Right now, it's time for your Tuesday Tweetable, and here's a message I hope you will post, tag, tweet, and share with those who follow you. Remember this, the trial is not meant to take you out. It's meant to take you through and to what God has for you. So don't quit. God has not given up, and you should not give up either. With that word, I encourage you to make this a terrific Tuesday. That is going to do it for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more on the issues you care most about, always at cbnnews.com. And you can watch CBN News programs anytime on the CBN News channel. Plus, we love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Have a great day.